Hey, thanks a ton, Justin. And I'm absolutely delighted to kickstart the NASSCOM Product Connect 2021 with none other than the man of the hour, Girish Mathrubootham, founder and CEO of Freshworks. I don't think he really needs any introductions, but Girish, thank you so much for taking the time for being here today. Um,
Thank you for having me, Debjani.
Girish, the theme of this forum is world class from India, and I don't think there is anyone better than you today that stands for world class from India, that truly represents the spirit of world class from India, and without any doubt. At this point in time, when you think India, you think startup ecosystem, you think SaaS ecosystem, um, you're one name that absolutely comes to mind first. You're the person we think about. But Girish, you know what? That's not the reason. Absolutely fascinated by just listening to you, following your career, is how you think. There's something very different in your thought process. And I'll give you two stories. I'll share two stories with the audience, which was for me a sort of aha moment in terms of this guy really has a different thought process here. The first one for me, Girish, I was brand new. I've just joined NASSCOM 2018, the NASSCOM Product Connect. You were our keynote. And you said you were going to talk about the best practices from Freshworks. You're going to share the best practices for the ecosystem. A lot of leaders do that, but it's still a very guarded best practices sharing in terms of what they want to say. You pretty much opened the kimono there and you shared everything there was to share, including your strategy, your playbook, everything. And I still remember after your session, I went up to you and I said, why did you do that? And how did you do that? There's so many people who could be potential competitors in this room. And you said, it has to be about growing the ecosystem. And I still remember those words. And the second story I want to share, which again was an absolute aha moment for me, and my full respect to you, Girish, for that, was when describing the IPO, you said that the IPO moment was a Bannister moment. And that just blew me off because, for those of you who, I'm sure all of you know who Bannister is, but for those of you who don't, Roger Bannister, he was an athlete, of course, and he became the first athlete to run a mile. I think it was under 4 minutes. That was the record he created. This was in 1954, May 1954. But what fascinating part is that's not what he's really known for. Of course, he broke the record, but what he's known for, what we call as the Bannister moment, is that he sort of, broke down the barrier to something that had been pretty much not reachable till then. And right after him, there were, a lot of people who broke that record. In fact, if I'm not wrong, another person did it in like 40 or 50 days. And then there were a few more that year. So it was fascinating, Girish, that you called it the Bannister moment, for someone who sort of, it puts a lot of importance on that moment and what it does. So that's what I want to start, Girish, which is explain this obsession you have with growing the ecosystem. Why is it so important to you? It almost feels like it comes first to you. Why is it?
No, first of all, thanks, Debjani, and hello, everyone. Nice to meet you virtually at the NASSCOM Product Conclave. So as a startup founder, I have been there attending NASSCOM really, really passionately, all in-person live events in Bangalore with fantastic memories. And so I still remember some of the conversations that we used to have in the like over dinner and the party the night. So I think what NASSCOM is doing with the product conclave is something really, really great for entrepreneurs. And I wish we can go back to in-person live events soon. So I think the whole idea of Freshworks. Okay, first I'll start with why I called it a Roger Bannister moment. I truly believe that, hey, it is just Freshworks is fortunate enough that we have the ability to be the first Indian SaaS startup to go public in the NASDAQ. And I don't think we are super smart or we have something that nobody else has. And I think that's what I've been talking about. And it's not just in 2022 that or 2021 that we're talking about. We have been talking about this ever since, I would say, 2015, 2016 onwards. I think the first time I spoke at IIM Ahmedabad, there is a YouTube video on how to start a startup, where I actually called this out as the India SaaS opportunity and how we can build India as a product nation. In fact, we have worked with iSpirit in terms of creating a product nation dream. We have created SaaS Boomi as a first conference where we want to pay it forward and really create a lot more product companies from India. Worked with NASSCOM product council and the product committee. I was a member there. Really, truly, because we all know that, see, India has been a big beneficiary, and thanks to NASSCOM also for playing a big role in that, of the IT services boom, right? So we won't be where we are in the global technology map without all the contributions of the IT services leaders, whether it's an Infosys, TCS, HCL, Wipro, and all these companies, where we showed the global companies like Accenture and IBM today. They are bigger employers in India than even like an Infosys, right? So we created that model to show how it's possible to do this. And I think we also know when NASSCOM created Product Conclave itself, NASSCOM also knew that, hey, we have to move up to the next level, which is how do we move from a services-driven economy to a product-driven economy. So that is the dream of the product nation is what was common. So if you look at what I've been doing, sometimes people have asked me, Girish, you're CEO of Freshworks, you're doing SaaS Boomi, you're started Together Fund. Like, why are you doing different things? For me, in my mind, it's all the same thing. It's India as a product nation is the one dream that's connecting it all. And I just think that my vantage point as employee number one of Freshworks actually allows me to talk to other entrepreneurs, share my learnings and failures so that they can win faster. And when we created SaaS Boomi, like we were able to create this paid forward conference where founders come and share with the sole objective that, hey, if Freshworks took 8 years to go from A to B, we should get the next set of startups to do it in 5 years or 6 years. And because India needs it, like we are seeing that growth is coming down in IT services. We need to create IP, we need to create employment. More importantly, like for our youth, like we need to create world-class opportunities to work in India. And that's something that we've been always passionate about. Like 80% of our employees are in India doing world-class stuff. We are not doing back office stuff. We are doing cutting-edge work in R&D, product innovation. So I think, and today you have so many folks moving back from the US to India to start a startup or work in a startup, and leaders moving back to actually lead Indian companies. So I think the short answer to your question is, I truly believe that India as a product nation is something that needs to happen, is happening. In 2015, I would say it was a dream that we all started dreaming together. But I think now we know that that's why there's a Roger Bannister moment, because there are so many other companies that are coming, and we are going to see, I would actually say that the world is going to experience the tremors of India SaaS, right? So like this is happening. We can feel it. So I think it's going to be our moment, and I think I'm super happy to have played a really small part in that.
Fantastic. And Girish, I heard a similar sentiment from two people who were responsible for literally launching India's IT industry around 50 years back, from Mr. F.C. Kohli and then Narayan Murthy. When I was talking individually to both, they both said exactly the same thing, that at that point in time, they knew that India had absolutely everything to become a superpower where it came to services, but it could not be done alone. They had to make it about the ecosystem. It had to be the power of the ecosystem unleashed on the world, the Indian ecosystem. And it's so wonderful to see that pretty much the same sentiment playing out, because I do believe that's one sentiment that has that is still relevant, that is still extremely important. So fantastic. You talked about India's moment. I cannot agree anymore with you on that. I do believe this is India's moment. I do believe this is India's decade for many reasons. But when it comes to realizing the dream of Product Nation, do you feel that we are doing everything that we can do to make it happen? I somehow feel that somewhere we are holding back, but I don't know why we are holding back and what's holding us back. But I just feel that uh, there's something more that we can do. What's your thinking, Girish? Is there anything that's missing today? Anything that needs to be done?
There's a lot that needs to be done. So I think an ecosystem is not built in a day. So it takes decades to build. And I think, see, folks in NASSCOM would actually know more about ecosystem building than people like me, because you have done that for so many decades. Now, I think it's time to go back to the basics. If you look at the pillars of what makes a great ecosystem, so see, I think what we have solved some of the crucial aspects, like say, for example, VC funding. Even between 2010 and now, in 2010, like there wasn't, like most VCs weren't even looking at places like Chennai to actually see if they can invest in SaaS companies. So I think what started off as a consumer internet play in India, Freshworks was a beneficiary of that. But just fast forward 10 years, now pretty much every VC fund is looking for SaaS companies to come out of India. So we have made progress on the money front. The government has actually recognized the startup opportunity. You have the central government and the state governments actually really trying to come up with policies for startups, infrastructure for startups. Telangana government has done something well. Like we see our Prime Minister talking about startup policy and how can you make it easy for businesses to do. So I think that's the second pillar. There's a lot of work that's being done there. And obviously we can do more, especially with, I would say specifically for SaaS businesses, where you have to have customer credit card on file. So there is some improvement that we could do with RBI and payment infrastructure, where the rules are not helping SaaS companies. I know the rules exist for a reason, and to protect consumers from fraud, etc. But maybe we should have a whitelist of good companies that are allowed to build their businesses, right? And talent is the most important pillar. So if you really ask the question, hey, what makes Silicon Valley, right? And again, this is all pre-COVID. Now, after COVID, even talent is not there in Silicon Valley anymore. Like everybody has gone back. But really, what makes Silicon Valley is, it's not the government, it's not the VC money, it's basically the talent pool, the availability of being there, done that talent. And I think that was the biggest problem in India, continues to be a problem now. For there is talent available. We have been building it over the years. But now with the startup boom happening, there is a lot of war for talent. But I think it's changing. So it will take, like in the next 5 years, 10 years, I think we will have a lot more been there, done that talent available in India, which is where I think we should also take a long-term approach. So right now, what can we do, right? So we have to invest in going, and at Freshworks, we are doing some of that. For example, we have something called as Freshworks School of SaaS, where we are partnering with universities. We have built like SaaS and cloud computing courses, where we are training our engineers on how to write scalable, secure code, how to deploy on AWS or public cloud environments. So getting them ready to be employable when they finish. So these courses are done in the second and third years of engineering, right? So I think companies should also invest in like really the long term, like take a long-term view for talent. Don't just try to throw money at the problem and hire from other companies, and that's not sustainable. Like if you keep throwing more money at people who come for 2x the salary today will leave for 3x the salary tomorrow, right? So having that long-term mindset is important for founders and CEOs on investing in talent. I think broadly these are the pillars. But see, like anything else, the opportunity and the pros far outweigh the cons, right? So the global digital transformation is a macro factor. Like it's throwing up so much opportunity in SaaS that we can go through this motion and build technology, build products. Like McKinsey, there was a report which said almost 450 different categories of SaaS software are up for disruption, right? So which means everything is coming up for disruption. So that's why we believe this is India's moment, and we can go and build stuff and service the global markets from India and win. So I think I'm an optimist. So the opportunity far outweighs constraints that we have.
Amen. Absolutely, amen. And I completely agree with you on both regulation and talent. And I think talent can become India's biggest competitive advantage if we get our act together. Government, industry, academia, everyone comes together like never before to figure out how to expand the talent pool. I think that's a huge opportunity ahead of us. When you're looking at the product landscape, it's interesting because every time I talk to a services CEO, he or she will tell me that they absolutely see their company expanding into the product space, and product is sort of the natural progression for them. How do you see the coming together of services and products, and what does it mean for a product company perspective, Girish? How should entrepreneurs who are in this space think about it? What are the opportunities that they can leverage?
See, first of all, I think I'm not going to judge on whether a services company can become a product company or not, but the DNA of a services company and the DNA of a product company are very different, from a thought process to focus on design and product management and user experience and all of that. There have been very few examples of successful products coming from services companies. And again, it's not that you cannot build it. I think it's just that the two models conflict each other, where like when you're used to like billing for people's time and you have a linear model, and it's actually every services company can get to scale in revenues and profitability quickly, but that actually is quite the problem, right? So when you're throwing more and more people, like you don't actually tend to optimize for laziness and productivity. You want to actually throw more people and keep doing the work. So I think, but I think if I am going to talk from a Freshworks standpoint, so I think what we have seen is services companies realize that the disruption is coming from cloud and SaaS. So they have already, like I'll give you the example of TCS. They have created a new and emerging technologies division, and they partnered with Freshworks. So we have been a partner, and over the last few quarters, I think probably in the last 4 quarters or so, like I didn't check the last number, but we have done more than 50 projects. See, traditional SI business models were built on long projects, high value, like $1 million, multi-million-dollar deals, multi-year contracts, and that is the business model. And companies like TCS actually understand that, hey, there is change coming. This is not going to be the way of the future. So that's why they created this new and emerging technologies division and partnered with Freshworks. And this is a velocity model. So you're moving from a high value model to a high velocity model, and where like doing 50 plus projects, I'm just saying 50 plus is a definite number. I don't know the exact number, but doing 50 plus projects in a span of like just a few quarters clearly shows that there is a new model emerging. And so we have partnerships with Accenture, with Hexaware, and like pretty much a lot of companies who want to work with us. And we think this partnership model, where it allows us to be a pure play product company focusing on technology, core technology, and give the opportunities. See, we have global opportunities today in terms of like migration, customer onboarding, customization, integration requirements. So all the system integration work around this, it's a different model where it's rapid deployment. So it's going to be shorter cycle projects, but the velocity model gives them more. So I think there is an opportunity to partner with services companies, and this is going to increase as more Indian product companies come.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the opportunity that I see coming up pretty significantly I think in the very near future. I think the partnership model is totally going to evolve because, as you said, the DNA is very different. And why lose out on your core capabilities and strength when you can partner and add to that? So, amen. Um, Girish, one of the questions we get very often is how do I scale? How do I grow my business globally? And it's, the Freshworks journey is sort of a dream journey, right? From an ARR of 100 million in 2019, if I'm not wrong, to over 300 million in 2021. I mean, a 3x growth in less than 3 years. What are your key lessons or advice for startups who are aspiring to get to the kind of scale that you have seen? What should they be doing?
See, I think for any business or any startup to grow, right? I recently told this in an interview. See, there are 4 pillars for growth, right? So for scale and growth, how do you scale? So for any startup, the first core pillar is product market fit. Till you get that, there is no point. You cannot scale it. So we used to say nail it and then scale it, right? So product market fit is the absolute first pillar which any founder has to cross. The second one and the most important one is scalable customer acquisition, or think of it as a scalable go-to-market model. Now, this, if you get right, it can forgive all the other things. It gives you time to fix all the other things. So what every founder and every business has to figure out in the initial years, once they have product market fit, is, hey, how can I do a set of activities which repeatedly bring more and more prospects to my business, and I'm able to convert them as customers? And that traditional funnel, how do you, or you can call it funnel in the traditional model or flywheel in the new model. So how do you get the word out across and get more customers to come and experience your product and buy your company? So that is the second and the most important pillar, is scalable customer acquisition. Now, if you have that, what gives you the ability to keep going are the next 2 things, which are crucially important. Third one is operational excellence. And what I mean by operational excellence is a strong back office infrastructure and access to high quality data. And this is something that you have to build once you have product market fit and you have a scalable motion. Only then, like if you think about the Freshworks journey of going from 100 to 300 in a relatively short period of time. So this is enabled by operational excellence. So which means the tools that you put in, and again, this is a challenge for Indian startups, because like when we were building from Chennai, we didn't have access to been there, done that talent in terms of like say hiring a good CFO or an accounting officer or a CIO and things like that. So we did not have that kind of talent, and we wanted people who have been there, done that. So, but I would say that it's absolutely important to kind of invest in all the infrastructure, make sure your tools and processes are best in class. Data is the other important piece, right? So, and we have been I even had, one of the best things that we did at Freshworks is we invested in a data team early on, and like even as early as 2015, where we wanted to understand more about our customers and our business, what's working, what's not working, how can we double down. But the challenges were very, very many, because we live in a world where it's a very siloed world. Even if you take customer data, that it's siloed between sales, marketing, support, success. So the blind man and the elephant story that we tell in India. So when I sit in meetings as the CEO, I have seen that everybody comes with their own data, which is cut in different ways, and they will all present stuff which would give me no actionable insight, right? So in fact, I used to joke about it a few years ago, where I say, hey, we are Freshworks, where data is an opinion, because everybody has their version of it, right? So, but we went from there to really fixing it. Like, you cannot go become a public company when you don't have the right data and the predictability that is needed. So we invested. So one of the fundamental things that we did was, like, we created what we started off as an internal project is what we eventually released as like Freshworks CRM, which fundamentally builds on a foundational core data architecture for a customer data platform, which is inbuilt. Because if you have to ask the founders today, right? See, if you're building the technology of the future, why are your systems and tools tools of the past, right? Because if you start today and you're going to get, say, 100 customers, 1,000 customers, 10,000 customers, make sure that you put your infrastructure and the customer data in the right place. Because if you will be growing and then you will go through the same. And these are things where we actually tell people, a founder should think about the data architecture. Like, can I know the single source of truth for my customer? So that is the third pillar. And I would strongly encourage any business that's growing to make sure that they have a single source of truth for their customers. A plug, Freshworks can help you with that. And the last, but not least, is people and culture, right? So we, like, Freshworks wouldn't have been Freshworks without the people and the culture that we have. I'm super, super proud of that. And it's absolutely important for any company. Like, it's sometimes founders make the mistake of sacrificing culture for growth. When you're growing fast, you want to hire people and you don't pay attention to culture, it's easily destroyed, right? So for me, it's like culture is like a hurricane lamp that you have to protect even when there's storm around, right? Like, so how do you keep that flame burning? So I think it's super important, and every founder should understand that over the long run, only people who believe, who are inspired by your purpose and vision will actually help build the company for you. You cannot build a company by just throwing money around. So, and you have to internalize that. So I think that's important, people and culture. So I think this is my simple 4-point formula for any founder to, it's easier said than done, obviously, but these are all important: product market fit, scalable customer acquisition, operational excellence in infrastructure and data, and people and culture.
Brilliant advice, brilliant points. And, the last point you made about people and culture, it is so relevant for our times. I mean, there's all this talk about founders going through a complete burnout because of growth pressure, etc. And these are young people. These are absolutely young people. And I think, as you said, they have to have a compass which sort of keeps them grounded. But Girish, what's your advice? What's your advice to these young entrepreneurs who are really feeling the pressure right now of growth, especially in this environment?
See, I think there are many simple lessons, right? So the first one I would say is, and this is a life lesson that I've learned, you have to build the ability to look at your own problems without passion, like a third person. That's a life lesson. It could be a company problem, it could be a funding problem, it could be a personal problem, it could be your family problem, it could be a health problem, doesn't matter, right? So the first thing that any person should build, especially a founder, is how are you able to look at your own problem without, because when you are emotionally attached to it, then you don't see things clearly. So you have to learn to separate emotion and passion. You can be, see, a lot of people confuse emotion and passion. So they, like, passionately working is different from being emotionally attached to it. So that is the fundamental rule, because you have to be able to see if something is not working, go and pull the plug and think about, like, what else to do, right? So that's my first lesson: separate emotion and passion. The second lesson is, I'm a chess player. I love playing chess. I'm not like a great player or anything, but I played during my college days. I played for my university. So what chess teaches you in life is, no matter what situation you are in, you look at what are the options that you have in front of you, and you pick the best option, keep moving forward. Something will happen, and maybe there is a chance. So, and the first point is important. Only if you are not emotionally attached to it, you will be able to see those three options. So you have to look at any founder with any business problem. Sometimes you can even write it down. Okay, what is option? Don't make it as my idea versus your idea, right? So, like, it could be your board member telling you, or you are thinking, or your co-founder telling it. Put it as options. What is move A? What is move B? what is move C, what are option A, option B, option C, and think about the pros and cons. Like, and in chess, you have to do all of this in your mind, right? Okay, play it forward and see where it's landing you, right? So I think it's the same thing in business. And the role of a board member is also that help the founder clearly articulate the problem, and then help the founder identify what are the 2 or 3 options that can be like pursued, like what are the choices, and then let the founder pick the best one that seems to be the best at that point. And you cannot sometimes, and Jeff Bezos says, you have to take those decisions sometimes in the absence of data, right? You may not have all the data. You have to like use the data that you have, but make a gut call and move forward. Move forward is the other important thing. Like so analysis paralysis also will not get you anywhere. So pick an option, move forward. So I think these 3 would be actually helpful for any founder. If they are not emotionally attached to their idea, I think you can keep going.
Absolutely brilliant. Again, brilliant advice. And I think another learning, Girish, especially when one looks at you, is also the importance of balancing out what you do with family, your other passions and hobby. I mean, you have started the football club, right? If I'm not wrong, in Chennai. You're a big fan. You love to talk about your love for movies, etc. And I just love that, because it sort of makes you a real person, I guess, which is so important in today's world, to have these things to sort of ground you. Girish, I mean, you are a mentor to so many young startups. I mean, they all look up to you. Who do you go to when you need to have the honest conversations, the tough conversations? Who's your mentor, or who's your role model?
So, okay, in my mind, the role models are obviously superstar Rajinikanth and Jeff Bezos. But obviously, I cannot go and talk to them whenever I want. But somebody who has really helped me in the early days of Freshworks for several years is Shekhar Kirani of Axel. He's our board member and first investor. And he's like almost like an elder brother to me right now. And he's like a great sounding board. And he pushes me, or has pushed me, to dream bigger than what I thought possible, right? So, and probably share you the story of even our IPO that is celebrated today as a big success. And the conversation started in 2017 in Bangalore, Leela Palace. There's a restaurant called Zen, the Chinese restaurant, and we were having dinner. And Shekhar was asking me this question. So Girish, what do you want to do with Freshworks, right? So and I asked him, what do you mean? And he said, see, you can either, you're already closing in on 100 million. So you can probably sell the company if you want, and you will be a very rich man. Or you can aim for leaving a legacy and take the company public. And it will almost be like what Infosys did for IT services. So Freshworks can be for the Indian product ecosystem, right? So, and like my answer was pretty much instantaneous on that day. Because I said, Shekhar, I'm in my 40s, right? So I don't want to just be rich, and I don't see myself as retiring with a lot of money, going on a beach and having a drink. How long can you do that? That's 2 days for me. I have to be in the thick of action. So for me, it was super exciting to even hear that and dream about that. I started dreaming. So that's the dream that he ignited. And from that point onwards, I've been talking internally into the company, inside the company, talking at SaaS Boomi and NASSCOM and Inc. Talks and so many other forums where I spoke about how Freshworks has the opportunity to be the first company to go public in the US. And when the moment happened, it was like a dream come true moment. And I think I'm super grateful and thankful to Shekhar for all the help he has done to me over the years.
Wonderful. What's your next big dream?
No, I think we want to build the most iconic software product company to ever come from India. So how Atlassian is a company from Australia, and we all know that probably all of us know Skype. Nobody knows that Skype came from Estonia. So sometimes companies put countries on the map, and so we definitely want to grow Freshworks into a very successful SaaS product company, one of the leaders in the SaaS space. So that's our dream.
May the force be with you is all I will say. I mean, it's just wonderful to see your journey. There's so much to learn from for everyone. It's a shame to get only 30 minutes for a conversation with you, Girish. I'm absolutely mad at the team for this. But, my last question, and I can't let you go without this, is if you could get into a time machine, go back and meet the 16-year-old Girish, is there anything you would tell him that this is what you should do or not do?
See, I think, first of all, let me say that I am in a place in life where I can't complain about anything. I'm super grateful for what I have. But I think if I go to a 16-year-old Girish, I would just say, hey, play to your strength. That's the, and I'm glad I've done that. I figured out quite late that that's the secret for anybody to win. And it's not something that I came up with. Even if we saw the Three Idiots movie, that's what happiness is all about. So optimize for happiness, play to your strength, you can win. That's the message for any 16-year-old out there, including my sons. That's what I'm instilling them.
Absolutely wonderful talking to you, Girish. And I hope every dream that you dream of comes true.